Part 35. I Can Break the Dimensional Wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 342. At this time, the perfect atmosphere under the fireworks disappeared all of a sudden, but the fireworks were also over, and everything around became quiet. Mio world? What's that? Akiyama Mio looked puzzled, and looked at Syoruo inexplicably. It's an offline event with you as the theme, which is almost equivalent to your fan meeting, Syoruo explained to Akiyama Mio. Although it was the first offline event held by Mengzhan, when planning the event, the theme was indeed related to Kingian, so Syoruo's explanation was not wrong. Hearing what Syoruo said, Akiyama Mio also remembered the concert he held in Huaguo at that time, the concert with tens of thousands of people that shocked him at that time. Mio Akiyama was very impressed with that concert. When she and Ritsu and the others went to Huaguo, they thought they were just performing a show, but they didn't expect it to be such a big concert with 10,000 people. And in the end it was a perfect ending, the most perfect concert. So, this time Syoruo invited again, Akiyama Mio did not refuse. If Syoruo-jun invited me, I would definitely go, even if I asked for leave. But Akiyama Mio seemed to have thought of something, and looked at Syoruo with a resentful face, her cheeks puffed up. Syoruo-jun, did you forget something? You said you would send the DVD of the concert at that time. Syoruo. At that time, you promised Wei that you would give her 10 copies of DVDs, as well as for her mother-in-law in the country, but now there are none, and Wei spends all day complaining in the lounge, saying that you are a liar, and I feel embarrassed. Looking at Akiyama Mio's resentful eyes, Syoruo was a little embarrassed. In fact, Syoruo asked someone to make a DVD, but Syoruo didn't know how long it would take to make a DVD, so he never asked. As a result, no one reminded him of it. But there is still time to remedy it. I just need to go back to the real world and get it right away. The DVD should be ready. Oh, the release of the DVD is a bit slow, and it was finished recently. I have brought it this time, but it is not on me now, and it is in the hotel. After you go to the hotel with me in a while, I will give it to you. You, Syoruo said to Akiyama Mio calmly. Hotel. Well, I put the DVD in the hotel, Syoruo invited Akiyama Mio. Follow the boy to the hotel at night. Akiyama Mio hesitated a bit, put her hands in front of her body, fingers intertwined. At this late hour, going to the hotel with a boy, no matter how naive she was, she would not fail to notice the problem. Even though she has been studying in girls' school, Akiyama Mio also understands what boys invite girls to hotels for, and they are not primary school students. She has watched all the episodes in TV dramas and movies. Akiyama Mio didn't dare to look directly into Syoruo's eyes, and said in a low voice, but, it's very late now, if I don't go home again, Mom and Dad may be anxious, or, tomorrow. Akiyama Mio rejected Syoruo's invitation. Although it was an invitation from a boy she liked, for Mio Akiyama at this moment, she was still not ready for such an invitation. Some things, it's too early now. Although Akiyama Mio refused, but for Syoruo, Akiyama Mio's rejection was too soft, and that kind of softness was even a signal of no problem for Syoruo. Syoruo suddenly realized that Akiyama Mio at this moment was like a simple little white rabbit. The feeling of being easily eaten was very cute. Syoruo looked up at the moon that was already hanging in the sky. The fireworks show was over, so it was already very late. However, when Syoruo spoke, it was another way of saying, is it late? It's just dark, and it's still early before going to bed, and my hotel is nearby. If you think it's too late, we can call a taxi. It will be here in a few minutes. After picking up the things, I will take you home. How about it? This is faster than your normal return home. You don't have to worry, it's just to get something, it'll be soon. Syoruo said to Akiyama Mio softly, because they just brought Akiyama Mio to use magic, the two of them are still holding hands. So Syaruo clenched a little bit, and gently leaned into Akiyama Mio's ear, and said softly, "I'm here this time, and I have prepared a gift for you." After all, Mio Akiyama was innocent, and when Syaruo said that, she didn't know what to do. She wanted to refuse, but she couldn't find an excuse. If she forcibly shook off his hand, what if she was hated by Syaruo-jun in the future? Moreover, Akiyama Mio felt that if Syaruo was a good person, it might really be just to get something for herself and give him a gift. Maybe his thoughts were too dirty. In the end, Akiyama Mio, who was in a tangle, agreed to Syaruo's invitation. "Since you want to get the DVD, then, there's nothing you can do about it." Sure enough, it was the little white rabbit. Syaruo sighed. Girls in the second dimension are still easy to deal with, so he is still a good person. If Akiyama Mio meets a scumbag, he will really be eaten up and there will be no scum left. Hey, Mio Akiyama is lucky. After Syaruo brought Akiyama Mio to his hotel, he first asked Akiyama Mio to wait for a while, and then pretended to go to the toilet to adjust the flow of time in the toilet. Back in the real world, Syaruo went directly to someone to get a big bag of concert DVDs, and then returned to the Kingian world. Of course, when Akiyama Mio was waiting for Syaruo, she found that Syaruo had been going to the bathroom for so long, and her expression was a little flustered. Has Syaruo-jun gone to take a bath? In the end, of course, nothing happened. After Syaruo came back, she handed over the DVD of the concert, the mooncakes she brought, the desserts she made herself, and some gifts to Akiyama Mio, and then she took a taxi to take her home. Among them, most of the things given to Akiyama Mio are to be distributed to the Kingian girls. Syaruo didn't think about doing anything at first. However, after seeing that Syaruo was really just sending things and not doing anything else, Akiyama Mio looked at Syaruo with a different look, as if he really believed that Syaruo was different from other boys. Thinking of this, Akiyama Mio felt sweet. Tonight's fireworks viewing and date were indeed a very romantic date for her. Except that there was no confession at the end, it was quite perfect. Early the next morning, Akiyama Mio invited everyone from her light music department to come to her home, because Syaruo gave a lot of things, and it was really troublesome for a girl from Akiyama Mio to deliver them to them one by one. So Mio Akiyama decided that it would be better to call them all to her home and divide the things in her home. "Mio, what did you do yesterday? We saw someone who looked like you at the firework festival," Yui Hirasawa asked immediately after everyone arrived. I was at home all the time yesterday. You may have misunderstood it." Mio Akiyama was still a little nervous when she lied, but she concealed it very well. "Let me just say, it's definitely not Mio." Ritsutanaka breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Mio Akiyama's refusal. "Syaruo-jun asked someone to bring a lot of things yesterday, and I'm going to wait at home. These are gifts brought by him, desserts made by himself, and mooncakes. I'll share them with you." Syaruo did not ask Akiyama Mio to tell the others that she came to Japan. After all, if she said that she came yesterday, it would be easy for Yui Hirasawa and the others to suspect what happened yesterday. Hwa country's special product, yes, yes. Yui Hirasawa immediately clapped his hands. "By the way, what about the DVD of the concert? Syaruo won't forget it again, right?" He also brought the DVD of the concert. "It seems that something went wrong, and the DVD is only ready now," Mio Akiyama said, taking out a large bag of DVDs that Syaruo brought, and took out the DVD. "It seems that there are 30 or 40 copies, which is enough for family members and classmates. Wow, Syaruo really keeps his word and brought me a lot. Not only the mother-in-law in the country will have it, but the neighbors of the mother-in-law in the country will also be able to give a share," Pingzui said with a smile after receiving the DVD. "They can't fit anymore." At that time, she remembered that when she was on the stage, facing tens of thousands of people, She was super handsome, but when she went to tell others about it, there was no DVD to prove it all, and even her parents felt that it's bragging. After Yui Hirasawa picked up the DVD, he immediately looked at the TV. "Can I play it now?" "Mio-chan." "Okay, I watched it last night, it was really good, it lasted for more than 2 hours." Mio Akiyama stood up, and went to turn on the TV. Everyone immediately sat around the TV, watching the DVD of their concert, and everyone looked a little excited. After all, it was a large-scale concert, not weaker than Budokan's concert, so how could they not be excited? The DVDs were shot from a professional angle. Although they were performing on stage, it was shocking enough for them, but watching the performance of the light music department on the DVD, the light music girls still couldn't help opening their mouths. "Keikuichi. So handsome. Is this really us? It feels so imposing." Tanakaritsu couldn't help but shouted. "Miss Yui Senpai's is really handsome, I just realized that Senior Yui's performance is so good." Nakano Azusa's eyes were also shining. "Ah, the performance is really great, I can't help but want to cheer, it seems like I'm going to do it again." The eldest lady Chin Chiwaza couldn't help but said. "I want to keep this DVD forever, and leave it to my grandson as a family heirloom." Hirasawa Yui looked at himself on the DVD, his eyes were red. She never thought that the self who had been like a salted fish before high school would have such a brilliant day. The performance of the Kingian concert is really great. With the presence of tens of thousands of spectators and such a big stage, it is completely like a top star performing. Not to mention, it was me who performed on the stage, a campus band that usually only performed at school festivals. The 5 girls just sat around in front of the TV and watched the whole concert without taking their eyes off it, without missing a single detail. For 2 hours, they didn't even have time to go to the bathroom. During the 2-hour concert, they were sitting in front of the TV at this time, and they didn't know how they survived with their thin bodies. Maybe it was the support and belief of the audience below. Even though the concert was over, the girls still felt unsatisfied, and even asked to watch it again. "After you get the DVD at home, watch it at home," Akiyama Mio said to Yui and the others. It would be a waste of time to watch it for another 2 hours, and Akiyama Mio was also hungry. Also, Syaruo-jun brought a lot of desserts and gifts, I'll give everyone a point. With that said, Akiyama Mio took out a lot of things and divided them up. Among them, most of the souvenirs are food, and there are some handicrafts from Hwagyo bought by Syaruo. They are good for decoration or gift. S choice. After watching the concert for 2 hours, the Kingian girls were indeed hungry, so they picked up the dessert cakes and mooncakes that Syaruo made by herself, and ate them. "Syaruo made it herself, I want to taste it." The girls were at Akiyama Mio's house, and there were no outsiders here, so the girls ate without any image. A moment later, the 5 girls lay straight on the ground, each of them clutching their stomachs. The desserts and mooncakes brought by Syaruo were all eaten, but at this moment, those girls were all looking blank, their eyes were a little empty. "It's so delicious, how could there be such a delicious dessert in the world? Is this happiness? I feel that if I eat other desserts in the future, I will never feel happy again. I will never forget this taste in my life." "Get up." Akiyama Mio was the first to return to normal and sat up. Syaruo-jun also brought one last thing, and it will be over after this is divided." What, is there any more?" Ping's Wei bounced off the sofa in an instant, and everything Syaruo gave her surprised her, so when she heard that there were still things, Ping's Wei couldn't continue lying down, and immediately doubled up. He looked at Akiyama Mio with bright eyes. "What else?" "I don't know either, let me see." Akiyama Mio opened the last package Syaruo gave, and after opening the package, it turned out to be 10 million cash. "I can break the dimensional wall." Author, Zhou Zhazi Jumiao. Chapter 343. In fact, Syaruo has always remembered the appearance fee of Kingian girl. But the currency in the real world is different from that in the fantasy world. The yen exchanged in the real world is completely useless in the fantasy world. It is really unreasonable to give gold. This problem was not solved until Syaruo went to Conan world. Because the currency in Conan's world and Kingian's world are the same, they are both common Japanese yen in the fantasy world, which Syaruo only noticed when she went to the hotel to pay. I don't know if it is related to Japan in the second dimension, or if the system has modified its own currency. At this moment, at Akiyama Mio's home. 1 2 3 4. Ritsu Tanaka counted the bundled Japanese yen with trembling hands. There were 10 stacks of 100,000 yuan bills in total. Although there were only 10 stacks, it was still shocking, at least for high school students like them. This is 10 million, is our appearance fee so much? This is too much. Akiyama Mio's expression was also a little surprised. She never knew that there would be money in it. For a high school band like the light music department, such an appearance fee was rarely seen, let alone as much as 10 million. To be honest, Syaruo did promise to pay them for the concert at the time. But in Akiyama Mio's opinion, it's almost enough to give tens of thousands of yuan, and they don't think about it if they have more. After all, they are not a famous group, and the venues and preparations at that time were also very large. It is estimated that the concert will not make much money. In addition, Syaruo didn't give it for such a long time. Ping Zui and the others thought that Syaruo had forgotten. Anyway, the air tickets and board and lodging were reimbursed by Syaruo, so they didn't ask. I just didn't expect that after such a long time, there would be such a surprise. This 10 million is enough to invite Japan's first-line stars. We can't take this money. It's too much. Let's send it back. If we are a famous group, forget it. A campus band like ours is not worth so much money. Mio Akiyama shook her head. I feel that Syaruo must have given so much for their sake. I support Mio senpai, the money is too much. Nakano Azusa nodded in agreement. Ritsu Tanaka looked at the two of them as if he was looking at a monster. What are you talking about? This is 10 million. If we share it, each person will be 2 million. Think about it carefully, 2 million for each of us. I can already do a lot of things, and I can buy whatever I want. Tanaka Ritsu's voice is like a demon, tempting his junior. 2 million. When the senior sister said this, Nakano Azusa's eyes circled slowly, as if his firm heart had been corroded by money all of a sudden. For 2 million, you can buy a better guitar. Yes, I can replace my second-hand drum kit, Ritsu Tanaka continued to tempt. For the light-tone girls, they dared to swallow the 500,000 yen that Sawako Yamanaka asked them to sell guitars at that time, let alone 10 million yen in front of them now. In the end, Akiyama Mio still couldn't resist her friend's fiery eyes, and divided the 10 million points. 2 wads of 10,000 yuan bills per person. Mio-chan, please, take money and hit me in the face, hurry up. Hirasawa Yui tilted her head and stretched out her face. She liked the feeling of someone hitting her in the face with money the most. Mio Akiyama was a little helpless. She almost forgot that Yui Hirasawa still had this strange habit, but she still picked up a stack of 10,000 yuan bills according to Yui Hirasawa, and aimed them at Yui Hirasawa's face. I'm coming. Snapped. The 10,000 yuan bill hit the face, making a slight noise. Ah, it's so comfortable, I'm going to die. Hirasawa Yui groaned and fell to the ground. Everyone. As the eldest lady, Chinbui just looked at her partners with a smile and didn't say anything. 10 million is nothing to a person like her who can sail a yacht on vacation. Wait a minute, what is this? At this time, Yui Hirasawa finally noticed the invitation letters next to the 10 million yen. They only had money in their eyes just now, and they didn't notice at all. Let me see. Tanakaritsu also picked up a copy and glanced at the invitation letter. Oh, it's an invitation letter. I hope we can go to Hwagyo's MW event. It's an event held by Syaruo. Just 1 month later, it said that the round-trip fare and board and lodging will be reimbursed. Do you want to go? Go, of course. I have been to Hwagyo twice, and they are both good, not to mention the reimbursement of board and lodging expenses. Long live Syaruo, Pingzui. I agreed with both hands. With so much money from others, it's really unreasonable not to go, Nakano Azusa said in a low voice with 2 million in her hand. In her opinion, she could go even if she didn't reimburse the travel expenses. Taking so much money from others, even though it was an appearance fee, Nakano Azusa still felt a little guilty. Okay, Kotobuki also nodded. Then go. I also agreed to Syaruo-jun. Akiyama Mio picked up the invitation letters, counted them, and found that Syaruo had put out a total of 7 invitation letters. Kifin, when we went to the last concert, there were also 7 people. Xiao Ziuo, you can also go there. Anyway, you can get reimbursed, and they also said last time that they want to go to Hwagyo again, Pingzui said, wringing his fingers. Then it's settled. At this time, Syaruo has returned to the modern age, sitting in her room, and there are still 8 invitation letters on the table in front of Syaruo. That's great. King Ian World sent out 7 invitation letters at once, but there are still 8 invitation letters. Who can I find? Syaruo gave the King Ian girl 10 million, which is actually not much to him. After all, what the King Ian girl earned for herself in the real world is far more than that. Moreover, the money given to them was obtained by Syaruo from the Black Clothes organization, and Syaruo didn't feel bad for giving another 10 million. Originally, Syaruo wanted to give more, but she was afraid of scaring them, so she only gave 1,000. 10,000. In Syaruo's view, sending out invitations is more important than money, and the system's rewards are the most important. If you get with an excellent score, maybe you can open a good world. Syaruo looked at the invitation letter on the table, tapped the table twice with her fingers, then took out a piece of white paper and a pen from the side, and wrote the name of the light tone girl group on the paper. There are 8 more. Let me think about it. It is best to invite people from modern society, at least with modern knowledge, so that when you come to the MW site, you will not cause riots. With only 8 left, it's not that hard. Should I send one to Naio Subaru? After all, he has lived in the modern age, and he is also an ordinary high school student. Nothing will happen. After all, it would be too strange to invite girls. Syaruo thought about it for a while, and felt that Subaru Naio could occupy a spot, and then wrote down the name of Subaru Naio on the white paper. There are still 7. Syaruo continued to write her name on the white paper. It's okay for Kikyo. She has accepted modern life now, and Kikyo will be a surprise. Tianjin. Only 6 more. Miyi from the Shield Girl world can be invited. She has a good relationship with me. Maple, Sally seems to have a good relationship with Xiameng. You can also invite me. Under the line, Xiameng should be very happy. Maple, me, Sally. Only 3 more. After writing this, Syaruo stopped writing. He was a little surprised, because it seemed that there were a lot of 15 invitation letters. At first, Syaruo felt that it was impossible for him to send them out. But when it was actually distributed, Syaruo suddenly felt that there were too few invitations, and the invitations were not enough. Is the system too conservative? I only gave myself 15 cards, and I feel that I can send out 20 cards. Save the last 3 invitation letters. Anyway, there is still a month left. I'm not in a hurry. Although I still have a few candidates, maybe there are better ones. Syaruo put the list and invitation letter she had just written in her private space. He was a little emotional, but what he didn't expect was that the invitation letter was not enough in the end. Since the candidate has already been booked, let's go and send the invitation letter first. Who should I send it to first? Sioruo recalled the names of the people on the list, and finally recalled the figure of the devil Maple, and the president of Yandi Kingdom, Miyi, both of whom were very cute girls. Compared with Maple, Sioruo has a deeper impression of Miyi, the president who pretends to be strong, but is actually a weak girl. Even though she pretends to be strong, she is surprisingly charming. At that time, I also cooperated with her to kill the Silver Wing boss. But after she retires, Miyi must have worked harder. Compared with the Holy Sword Assembly, the Flame Emperor's kingdom is weaker in strength. Sioruo also heard Xiameng talk about some situations in NWO. Since he left, the Holy Sword Assembly has once again become the strongest guild in NWO. But this is also normal. The president of the Holy Sword Assembly, Pei Yin, is indeed stronger than Miyi. Recalling these past events, Sioruo decided to send invitations to the World of Shield Lady first. Let's go to the World of Shield Girl first to send an invitation letter, but I'm not familiar with Maple, and I don't know if she will accept the invitation. It seems that inviting people is also part of the difficulty of the mission. Thinking of this, Sioruo felt that it would be better to call Xiameng. Recently, Xiameng has been playing NWO and working as a nanny in Big Maple World. But Xiameng went to school today. Sioruo waited for several hours before Xiameng came home from school. Xiameng, you're back, Sioruo smiled at her sister when she saw her return. Well, what's the matter? Xiameng tilted her head. Her intuition told her that her brother was a little strange today. It's nothing, I just want to ask you, which floor is your NWO at now? Sioruo first found a topic and pretended to be chatting normally. Xiameng was a little surprised. We have reached the 5th floor now, brother, didn't you quit playing after becoming the number 1 in the server? What, you want to come back again? Sioruo shook her head. No, it's just that we haven't played games together for a long time. Let's play together today. By the way, find some acquaintances in the game, and see how your big maple tree is doing now. Okay. Xiameng agreed quickly without any doubts. Hurry up and log into the game. After that, Sioruo took out her previous helmet and logged into NWO. In the game, Sioruo re-entered her account. The most agile account, although the level has not been upgraded since I retired, but the equipment and attributes are quite luxurious. After all, Sioruo used to be the strongest in the whole server. Although the equipment is not as good as Gandhi, it is still considered the top equipment. Sioruo tried to swing a knife a little bit, and used a set of sword skills. The sword moves performed by using the physical fitness of the game characters are much stronger than her own body in terms of speed and strength, especially agility. In the game, Sioruo moves it's like teleporting. Sioruo also used this game body in the game, and the player as a target, to improve her swordsmanship to the extreme. Almost in this kind of holographic game, the battle is equivalent to actual combat. Now entering the game again, Sioruo still has some nostalgia. At that time, she spent a lot of happy time in NWO, fighting bosses, doing activities, and trying to find a way to fight the big devil Maple. Those days of playing games were still very interesting, especially when several large-scale events added up. Almost tens of thousands of players had their necks cut by themselves. Otherwise, when Sioruo fought against the Intestine Hunter, how could she mistakenly think that Sioruo was a murderer, and it was Sioruo who killed the players? After a while, Sioruo saw the message from Xiameng in her email. Brother, send you a coordinate, come here quickly. After Sioruo saw the message, she immediately sent back to Xiameng. Okay, I'll be there soon. However, Sioruo noticed that it wasn't just Xiameng's messages. Sioruo found that there were still many unread messages from people on her mail list, but she didn't log in, so none of those messages were replied. Among them, Miyi's avatar sent the most messages, probably hundreds of messages. After all, she is a member of the Emperor Yan Kingdom, and she is the president. It seemed that she was sending herself a message every day. Xiaoruo was a little curious, so she opened the message Miyi sent to herself. Is it because you are very busy at work and have no time to play? If you're busy with work, you'd better be busy with work first, and I can handle it with the guild? Before you obviously came once a week to maintain your level, why haven't you been online recently? Are you still working overtime? Overtime is too serious. It's so pitiful, living in a social animal, but occasionally I want to play games and relax. We have reached the 4th floor, and we are now preparing to clear the boss on the 4th floor, although we can do it without you. The boss on the 4th floor has been defeated by us, and now we are preparing to go to the 5th floor, but why are you still not online? Is something wrong? Have you really retired? Idiot. Is it no longer online? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 344. Xiaoruo opened the unread messages sent by Miyi one by one, and finally closed the game list silently. He wanted to reply to Miyi with a few messages, but he didn't know what to reply, but now Miyi happened to be offline, which made Xiaoruo heave a sigh of relief. In fact, after seeing so many messages in the email, Xiaoruo suddenly thought of a message she had seen on the internet. Online dating, in fact, has no results. He didn't reply to Miyi's message, but the matter has not been resolved, and the two will still meet in the future, and even send her an invitation letter. Xiaoruo looked up at the sky, her gaze became deep, as if she was thinking about a very important issue. After a long time, Xiaoruo came to a conclusion that made him very entangled. I'm really a scumbag. Even if you have deceived yourself in a self-comforting manner, sometimes the truth cannot be concealed. Xiaoruo should really face this problem now, that is, now he seems to provoke more and more girls in the second dimension. Now when the invitation letter is issued, this point is even more prominent. When crossing, it may be because it is a fantasy world, and because they are all two-dimensional characters, and the reason is too far away from reality. Xiaoruo did not feel too much reality. Game. For example, in terms of spending money, if it is in the real world, if Xiaoruo wants to spend 10 million yen in cash with the purchasing power, he will definitely feel distressed, but in the fantasy world, he doesn't feel much at all, and girls in the second dimension really feel distressed. It is beautiful and cute. So Xiaoruo couldn't control herself at all, and often teased some good-looking two-dimensional girls in the fantasy world, which was completely subconscious behavior. Is it right to do this? It must be wrong. Even in the second dimension, it is the same with fantasy characters. Xiaoruo naturally knew this, he also knew that he was too scumbag for doing this, and it would not be too shameless to say that he would despise himself sometimes. But there is no way. Sometimes he just can't help himself. I know it's scum, but I can't change it. Now Xiaoruo realizes that she has always regarded traveling through the animation world as a game. Enjoying the daily life of playing with the girls in the second dimension of animation, feeling their tenderness and the charm of various characters, just like a player playing ReZero. Even Xiaoruo didn't know whether the world he could travel through now would exist in the future. Perhaps one day, the system would disappear. So Xiaoruo was caught in some kind of entanglement, knowing that what she was doing was wrong and she couldn't be so scumbag, but she couldn't control her body, and fell into deep self-blame. In fact, Xiaoruo is indeed a little too young and too impulsive. For a boy of his age, the troubles now are equivalent to the troubles of adolescence. What an annoyance. Just when Xiaoruo was criticizing himself as a scumbag in his heart, Xiameng sent another email, reminding him to leave quickly. Brother, What are you doing? When are you coming? Didn't you say you wanted to see Maple? The coordinates have been sent to you, come here quickly. Maple said that she wants to treat you to dinner. Let Maple wait for me, I'll be right there. By the way, is Miss Sally here? I haven't seen her for a long time. Syaruo replied subconsciously. Sally is here too, come here quickly. Yeah, I'll come right away, let them wait for me. Syaruo replied Xiameng's message with a smile, then left everything behind her, and happily set off to go to the coordinate point Xiameng sent her. About 10 minutes later, Syaruo arrived at the coordinates. When Syaruo arrived, she found that the coordinate point Xiameng gave her was actually the entrance of a cave. At the entrance of the cave, Syaruo saw 3 people waiting for her. Xiameng, Maple, and Sally. Although there are many lovely members of Daifengshu, but those people are not familiar with Syaruo, so only Maple and Sally came over. When Syaruo saw them, she immediately stepped forward to greet them with a smile. Miss Maple, Miss Sally, hello, we meet again. Mr. Syaruo, I haven't seen you for a long time, Maple responded to Syaruo with a smile. Although the two used to be rivals, after all, Syaruo didn't fight against each other except for hacking Maple to death. They had met several times before, and Syaruo was Xiameng's older brother, so the relationship between Maple and Syaruo, the relationship is not bad. Long time no see, I thought you retired, and I couldn't find revenge for you, Sally snorted pretending to be angry, and turned her head away. Although Sally was very angry, she was still a little happy to see Syaruo appearing. By the way, where is this place? Syaruo looked at the cave behind Sally and asked. He was a little unclear, why did he choose this place for the meeting? The cave in front of him felt like the entrance to the boss room. Brother, I have a surprise for you this time. You have never been to this place before, Xiameng said to Syaruo mysteriously. I've never been here, a mysterious place. Syaruo suddenly became curious. You'll know when you go in. After that, Syaruo followed Maple and Sally into the cave. After entering, Syaruo immediately saw a beautiful starry sky, as if she had entered a world belonging to the starry sky. When she looked up, she could see the vast expanse of the vast sea of stars. Because it is a scene processed by the game, it is countless times more beautiful than the real starry sky. Everything in front of me is so beautiful and unreal. Looking at the beautiful scenery around her, Syaruo couldn't help being immersed in it. Syaruo felt that this place looked familiar. After thinking about it for a while, she remembered that this is a starry sky restaurant that appeared in the original work. The beautiful restaurant that appeared in the 3rd episode of the Dunyoung animation could turn the starry sky into gourmet food. The sight really shocked Syaruo. When playing the game, Syaruo had never been to this famous restaurant because she had been fighting monsters and upgrading. She never thought that she would be able to eat here when she entered the game for the 2nd time. Because she has a real taste experience, Syaruo, as a chef, suddenly has some expectations. What kind of starry sky food here is like? How is it? Pretty, it's Sally who wants to come here. Xiameng was very satisfied with her brother's shocked expression. It's so beautiful, it's my first time here, Syaruo nodded and praised. The style of this hotel is indeed something that cannot be achieved in the real world. Syaruo feels that even with her own culinary skills, making a shiny mapo tofu here may not be worthy of this starry sky. He looked at Sally, but Sally raised her chin high and snorted coldly. It just so happened that I was planning to come here for dinner with Maple and Mo-chan, and you were just passing by. Although she said this, Syaruo still felt that Sally had prepared seriously. Okay, let's take a seat, and we can eat the delicious food here again. I have been busy upgrading before, so I haven't been here much. Maple led everyone to the huge column in the center. There are not too many decorations around, just relying on the beautiful starry sky is enough. In the very center of the dining room was a wooden table, finely carved and smooth. in too good a condition to look like something out of doors. Because there are 4 people, there are 4 opposite chairs around the table, 4 sets of goblets, knives and forks, clean white porcelain plates, and unlit candlesticks in the center of the table. If there are only 2 seats, it is like a restaurant for couples. Up. Let's sit down together, something special will happen after we sit down, Sally said to Syaruo. She was familiar with this place, but because Syaruo came here for the first time, only he didn't know what to do. Okay, Syaruo nodded. Then count to 3 and sit down together. New. 1 2 3. The 4 grabbed the back of the chair and pulled it away, sitting down at the same time. There was a snap. The moment the 4 of them sat down, the candlestick ignited with a bang, illuminating the table brightly, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little different. The starry sky in the sky became more attractive and deeper. Syaruo saw a shooting star flashing by in the sky. Just looking at it, Syaruo's consciousness seemed to be drawn into the starry sky. The next moment, Syaruo's eyes went black, as if everything around her had disappeared, leaving only the starry sky in front of her. This is... Wait a minute, where are Maple and the others? Syaruo didn't know why, but when she saw this starry sky, she fell into hallucinations. But more importantly, in Syaruo's mind, a system notification sounded suddenly. Ding! Congratulations, you accidentally discovered Starry Sky Cuisine, which can be learned. Ding! Starry Sky Cuisine, a mysterious cuisine independently produced by the NWO Game World AI, is still in the completion stage. Relying on the fantasy cuisine that exists in the game world, as an excellent chef, you accidentally discovered a unique cooking method. This miraculous culinary art only exists in fantasy, and it can be learned by satisfying the chef profession. Illusory Starry Sky Cooking, because it is too illusory, learning consumes 10,000 reputation points, which can be shown in reality or other worlds. Whether to learn. Whether. Syaruo was a little surprised. She didn't expect that she could learn the wonderful Starry Sky Cuisine in the animation. Is the AI in this game world so strong? Syaruo did not hesitate, and immediately accepted the system's request. Yes. Being able to learn Starry Sky Cuisine, Syaruo naturally wants to learn. Although Syaruo has not eaten it yet, the forceful and slow cooking method in the animation at that time made Syaruo unforgettable for life. The next moment, Syaruo's mind was separated from the starry sky and slowly regained consciousness. And the goblet on the table slowly floated up from Syaruo's face. Syaruo looked at the restaurant's performance with some surprise. Soon, when the goblet reached a height of 1 meter above the crowd, it suddenly stopped. Then, 2 thin dark blue lines hung down from the starry sky. The dark blue lines were poured into everyone's wine glasses, and the wine liquid gradually increased. When half of the injection was completed, the 2 wine glasses floated back to the table with a knock. This is the wine of the starry sky. Syaruo picked up the goblet in surprise and looked at it. Huh. There is a small night sky in the goblet, as if the starry sky outside has been put into this wine glass. The little stars in the wine glass are as bright as the sky. There are thin clouds drifting slowly, and the new moon hangs between the clouds. Man holds in hand. Just as Syaruo was fascinated by this incredible drink, this time the plate changed. With a snap, 2 balls of small candle flames jumped from the candles to the center of the 2 plates respectively. The flame of the candle gradually grew larger and floated on the plate. At the same time, 2 small water droplets wrapped in faint light dripped down from the sky. The light leaves the water droplets on the plate and turns into small yellow beads emitting shimmering light. The water droplets, like candles, flutter lightly on the plate. Finally, there are 3 red, blue, and yellow beads floating on the plate. The plate returned gently to the table. Syaruo watched such fantastic food appearing in front of her, and such a compelling way of serving it. She was a little curious about how the food tasted. Hurry up and taste the starry sky, Sally said to Sioruo. Good. Sioruo couldn't help but picked up the knife and fork, and gently cut some glowing beads. The beads were clear and transparent, like some kind of jelly. After cutting, Sioruo put the food into her mouth. Is it delicious? Sally looked at Sioruo expectantly. After Sioruo finished eating, she hesitated for a moment. Well, how to say? Sweet and sour, hot and cold, not like the taste of the real world, this should be the taste developed by AI itself. What a strange smell. Sioruo feels that although the chefs in this game cook dishes that are top-notch, the taste is not as delicious as imagined. It feels a bit like eating fruit. Of course, it is not unpalatable. It can be said that the expectations are too high. Sioruo took another sip of the starry sky in the cup, like a drink she had never drunk before. It's just that after drinking, the hair is like stardust, sparkling, and the color of the eyes also changes, the left eye turns blue, and the right eye turns red. It's like hiding the starry sky in the body. At this point, Sioruo felt a wave of knowledge about starry sky cuisine, which was introduced into her mind. Sioruo also mastered the fantastic way of making starry sky cuisine. At this time, Sioruo felt as if she could store the starry sky in the goblet as long as she took out the goblet. By the way, Meng Zhang said, you have something to do with us this time, what is it? Because Maple is still eating starry sky cuisine, Sally is the first to ask Sioruo her own question. She has an intuition that Sioruo will not go online if she has nothing to do. Well, the main reason is that Xiameng and you have known each other for a long time. I held a MW offline event in Huaguo. I hope you can come. Sioruo invited Sally and Maple. Mianji. Sally and Maple looked at each other. That's right, it's Mianji. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhazi Jumiao. Chapter 345. In fact, for Maple and Sally, there is nothing to do offline, but they also know that Sioruo and Xiameng are both from China, and the noodle base they chose is not Japan. Some troubled. After all, they are only students, so it is a bit bold to go abroad directly like this. Moreover, the round-trip air ticket money is also a very heavy cost. Of course, Sioruo also told them that since the activities are her own responsibility, the round-trip air tickets, board, and lodging can be reimbursed. Hearing this, their expressions became a little more relaxed. Sally, do you want to go? This is a free trip abroad, isn't it? Such a good opportunity, Maple was moved when she heard Sioruo's proposal. After spending so long with Xiameng, Maple did not think this event is a scam. And traveling abroad for free is also very tempting for a student like Maple. Sally thought about it seriously, as if she was thinking about the feasibility of Mianji. After a while, she looked up at Sioruo. Can we think about it for a while? We haven't thought about it yet. Sioruo nodded and said with a smile, of course. If you come to China, you can come to my house to play. Also, we recently released a new holographic game called ReZero, which is very fun. At that time, you can also try it at the event. New game? ReZero, I have never heard of this game. Sally seemed intrigued to hear that there was a new game to play. Yeah, if you come to my house, I can ask my brother to cook for you. My brother is definitely the best cook in the world. Xiameng also helped Sioruo speak. Xiameng also hoped to have a face-to-face with Maple, after all, they are very close friends, but she suggested to her brother to let him take her to Japan, but was rejected. Well, we know, we'll tell you after we think it over in a few days. Sally responded on behalf of Maple. Sioruo didn't know if the two of them would come over in the end, but since Sally said so, Sioruo could only wait for their response. Even if they didn't come in the end, Sioruo had no choice. After eating at Starry Sky restaurant, Xiameng pulled Sioruo aside. Brother, is this how you often trick little girls to come to your home? The girls who played musical instruments last time were invited by you like this, right? Xiaomeng looked at her brother suspiciously. Only now did she seem to understand why such a beautiful Japanese girl would go home with her brother. It's really cheeky to directly invite the other party to come to Huiguo for a face-to-face meeting, and even use the routine of including board and lodging. How can this be a lie? It's too ugly. Xiaoruo felt that her sister seemed to have misunderstood her. They are all very close friends. I invited them to play in Huiguo and reimbursed their board and lodging. I paid all the money. Can this be considered cheating? They have nothing to lose, and they will also have fun. Hearing this, Xiaomeng's eyelids twitched. Indeed, according to what her brother said, those girls did not lose anything, and even earned money from the free travel, but Xiaomeng still felt that something was wrong. Money is not lost, but what is more important than money? Moreover, Xiaomeng suddenly had a guess when she heard her brothers say, "Brother, can you tell me that besides Maple and Sally, you also invited a few girls?" Xiaomeng quickly grasped the point. When asked by her sister, Xiaoruo's eyes shifted slightly. Not many, maybe a dozen or so. When Xiaomeng heard her brother say this, she had an expression that I had guessed a long time ago, but after hearing the number, Xiaomeng still gritted her teeth. A dozen or so, not much. Xiaomeng didn't know what to say anymore. Her elder brother was lawless now. If a dozen or so girls dared to bring them home together like this, wouldn't they really be afraid of the Azura field? For Xiaomeng now, it is no longer a mentality of watching a show from the sidelines, but thinking, when the Shura field incident really happens, and sees blood, what if it splashes on her skirt? Even Xiaomeng wondered if his brother wanted to clear the box of ancestral bracelets in his mother's hand to do such a crazy thing. Xiaoruo seemed to have seen through her sister's thoughts, and couldn't help but speak. "What are you thinking about? All I invite are friends, don't make up some weird things." Xiaomeng, he. They are all female friends, who would believe it? Xiaoruo felt that his sister might be thinking wrong, but he didn't explain anything. The more he explained this kind of thing, the more chaotic it became, and there was no need to explain it to her. Not long after, Miyi went online, and after Xiaoruo saw Miyi online, he asked Miyi out again. After Miyi received Xiaoruo's message, she arrived at Xiaoruo's coordinates in about 3 minutes. This speed can only be so fast if she rushed here as soon as she received the message. It's just that when seeing Xiaoruo, Miyi maintained a cold attitude, exactly the same as before, except that there seemed to be a trace of inexplicable emotion in her eyes. "You're back." "Well, I'm back. How long can I stay when I come back this time?" Miyi didn't ask why Xiaoruo didn't show up for so long, but directly asked how long she could stay. It seems that she also knew that Xiaoruo might not stay in the game. "I guess I'm leaving today. I still have a lot of things to do, so I can't keep playing games." After a few simple conversations like this, the two fell into silence. Miyi and Xiaoruo were the same when they saw her. She was wearing a red yandi suit, matched with her red hair and red pupils. She had a unique imperial demeanor, and with her delicate face, she was both cute and majestic. It's a completely different style from Maple. Beside Miyi, there is also the fire attribute pet that Xiaoruo gave her, which is the spoils they got from defeating the Silver Wing boss. In the end, Xiaoruo still spoke, just like inviting Maple, and invited Miyi to participate in the MW event she held. Unlike Sally, after learning that Xiaoruo went online this time to invite her to participate in an event in Huiguo, Miyi agreed without hesitation, which made Xiaoruo a little unexpected. However, according to Miyi, she had originally planned to travel to Huiguo, and it just happened to be a coincidence that she had a face-to-face meeting with Xiaoruo this time. The tone of Miyi's words was very flat, and Xiaoruo couldn't tell whether what Miyi said was true or not, but Xiaoruo always felt a little guilty when she saw Miyi like this. It was as if he went online just for the task, and regarded Miyi as a tool for him to complete the system task. Are you in a hurry today? Are you here to play for a while? After all, I haven't logged in for so long. Miyi looked at Xiaoruo and asked, her tone as usual, as if she was talking to an ordinary guild member. Xiaoruo shook her head and said, I have nothing to do today, so I'm not in a hurry to get off the assembly line. Then go fight the boss with me. You haven't seen the boss on the 4th floor. At that time, we spent a lot of effort to clear the boss on the 4th floor. If you were there, maybe our guild would it's the fastest to clear the level. Unfortunately, Miyi seemed to be talking about a very common thing. Xiaoruo simply hummed. After that, Xiaoruo accompanied Miyi to fight the boss on the 4th floor. With the cooperation of Xiaoruo and Miyi, the boss naturally had no power to fight back, and the tacit cooperation between Xiaoruo and Miyi was like it was back to the time when the two were fighting Silver Wing. After beating the boss, the two returned to the main city and went shopping on the streets of the main city. In this fantasy street in the game, Miyi and Xiaoruo walked quietly like this. We used to fight bosses together often, but we never took such a quiet walk. A second guild in the whole server, the president of Yandi Kingdom, went for a walk with the former number 1 swordsman in the whole server, and immediately attracted the attention of a large number of players, and even the game forums were all discussing this matter. After all, Xiaoruo can be regarded as a legend in this game, and he hasn't been online for a long time. It's just that such a time can't last for too long. I gotta go. Fighting bosses, shopping, Xiaoruo and Miyi finished all of these. In the end, Xiaoruo also knew that she was leaving. Games are games after all, and everything on the internet is too illusory. When Miyi heard that Xiaoruo was about to leave, she knew she couldn't keep him, so she could only hum in a low voice. See you. However, at the moment when Xiaoruo was about to quit the game, Miyi suddenly called Xiaoruo again. Wait a moment. What's wrong? Xiaoruo put her hand on the position where she exited the game, and looked at Miyi curiously. Don't you want to exchange a phone number? Otherwise, if you disappear next time, where will I find you? Miyi plucked up her courage and shouted at Xiaoruo, besides, this game is boring. When the time comes, it will be fun. Game, I can also ask you to open up Wasteland together. Since it is impossible to keep in touch in the game all the time, then it is not good to know offline. Being able to ask for Xiaoruo's phone number is already the limit for Miyi's weak personality. After shouting loudly, Miyi felt her heart beating, and she was waiting for Xiaoruo's answer. Okay, Xiaoruo smiled, sent a private email to Miyi, and sent her phone number. Next time, if there is a boss who is difficult to fight, or who is bullying you, call me, I promise, I am on call, and even if you encounter unhappy things, you can call me. Remember what you said. Miyi looked at the phone number Xiaoruo sent, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, and her mood seemed much better. When the time comes when I go to Huaguo to have a face-to-face meeting, you must entertain me well. Sure, when the time comes, I will cook myself and cook traditional Chinese cuisine for you. I have written them all down. If there are less, I will expose you on the game forum. In the end, Xiaoruo quit the game, but recalling the conversation with Miyi just now, Xiaoruo smiled knowingly. Xiaoruo began to summarize what she had just gained from going online. Maple and Sally have not agreed for the time being, and it will take a few days to give a reply, while Miyi agreed to her invitation, but there is no way to send invitations in the game world, and she needs to travel to the reality of the shield girl the world will do. After that, it is the Starry Sky cooking skill that I comprehended in the game, which is also the special effect of the Starry Sky. For this skill, Xiaoruo attaches great importance to it. After all, it is a skill that can improve her cooking skills. Xiaoruo first came to the kitchen and made a plate of her best mapo tofu, because mapo tofu is Xiaoruo's best dish, so after making it, the top of the mapo tofu is like a little master's world. Glowing red. Different from the golden light of other dishes, mapo tofu emits a red light because of the pepper. After that, Xiaoruo waited until night, when there were stars in the sky, came outside the house, gently lifted the plate, pointed it at the night sky, and snapped her fingers. The power of the starry sky. Xiaoruo muttered in her heart. Then, the starry sky in the sky seemed to become brighter, as if something fell from the starry sky and flowed into the dinner plate in Xiaoruo's hand, and the strange starry sky poured into the mapo tofu held by Xiaoruo. In an instant, the red light on Xiaoruo's plate disappeared, and the mapo tofu that was originally emitting bright red light became dim and deep. Mysterious starlight slowly emanates from each piece of mapo tofu, as if every piece of tofu contains a starry sky, mysterious and illusory. Starry sky mapo tofu. Xiaoruo looked at the plate in her hand, as if what was placed inside was not food, but a starry sky. This kind of full-bodied special effect has completely surpassed the special effects in the world of the Chinese little boss. The golden light special effect suddenly becomes earthy in front of the starlight special effect. Xiaoruo felt that she had already surpassed a super chef in terms of special effects. Xiaoruo was very satisfied with his masterpiece. He picked up the chopsticks and tasted it lightly. It was indeed extremely delicious. After all, he made it by himself. The best cooking, the natural taste cannot be bad, but the deliciousness of mapo tofu, it has nothing to do with its cool special effects. It's amazing, special effects cooking. Xiaoruo didn't expect that one day she would walk out of her own unique path on the road of cooking. The road to special effects. Not just cooking, Xiaoruo went home again, took out a bottle of fruit from the refrigerator, then took out a transparent cup at home, and poured the juice into the cup. This time, Xiaoruo went outside again, looked at the night sky in the sky, and the countless stars above, and raised her cup. Starry sky. The next moment, the galaxy was shining brightly, as if something flowed out of the galaxy, entered the cup in Xiaoruo's hand, and filled the cup. In the cup, the juice has disappeared, leaving only a drink that seems to be taken out of the starry sky, mysterious and charming. It's so romantic, it's definitely a date killer. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhiwai. Chapter 346. Because there is still 1 month before the MW event starts, these times are considered a very long period of time for Xiaoruo, who can control the 16:1 time flow. Regarding the invitation letter, those on the list, Naosuboru, Kikyo, and Xiaoruo also sent out the invitation letter, and none of them refused, and promised to come to participate as soon as the time came. In the real world, other related people are in charge of MW's activities, and Xiaoruo doesn't have to worry about those real things. He would occasionally watch the reactions of the audience and game players on the forum, and watch the live broadcast of the game if he had nothing to do. After resting for a few days, Xiaoruo began to think about things in the new world. There is still 1 month left. Counting the time I can adjust, it is equivalent to a year. This time is enough for me to open a new world. I remember that I still have a world that I haven't traveled through. Xiaoruo recalled that he had won a dangerous mythical world by lottery before, and he always wanted to go, but the system reminded him at that time, and he was too weak, so he didn't go, and put it aside. Now that Xiaoruo's level has reached LV4, coupled with his great swordsmanship, he barely has the ability to protect himself. It just so happens that this time is free, so Xiaoruo plans to open up a new world. It's like opening up a new game. So, the impatient Xiaoruo found the entrance to the new world in her mind. Tianshu Chitan. Xiaoruo has watched this animation before, and still has some impressions in her mind. Tianshu Kitten, this animation is related to cultivating immortals, and it is related to the mythology of Huaguo. There are traditional mythological figures such as Tianting, Jade Emperor, Thunder God and Lightning Mother. What Xiaoruo remembers most clearly is that there is a book in the world of Tianqitan that records 108 kinds of spells. As long as you get the book, you will be able to cast the legendary spells just like the gods. The spells in the heavenly book are unpredictable, calling the wind and calling the rain, and turning beans into soldiers are all basic spells in the heavenly book. The story of the animation also revolves around the heavenly book. 3 foxes stole the protagonist's heavenly book. The content is also a magic duel between the protagonist and the vixen. What kind of ability you will get if you truly fully comprehend the heavenly scriptures is not even fully shown in the animation. Xiaoruo is naturally very concerned about the secret method of cultivating immortals. Unlike the abilities in other worlds, what Xiaoruo cares about is not his ability, but the ability to live forever, so for the Book of Heaven, Xiaoruo is determined to get it. The word longevity can almost be said that no one can resist it, and who doesn't want to live forever? The only disadvantage is that there are immortal gods in the world of Tianqiu, and those immortal gods can probably press themselves to death with a single finger, so that world is more risky for people like Xiaoruo who seek stability. Even if the immortal god had no reason to attack Xiaoruo, Xiaoruo would still take the danger into consideration. Xiaoruo looked at the passage of the Tianqiu world and thought for a moment. He hadn't encountered a world that was dangerous to him for a long time. With my strength, I definitely can't resist the gods and gods of the heavenly book world, but it's good enough to deal with some little monsters, and I have mastered the plot. As long as I don't touch taboos when stealing the heavenly book, no gods should attack me. After thinking about it for a while, Xiaoruo decided to vote. However, it is naturally impossible for Xiaoruo to travel directly to the past. In order to protect her own safety, Xiaoruo decided to make preparations. When she might encounter danger, the first thing Xiaoruo thinks of is Tom's cute cat face. Cute, strong, and secure, this is Xiaoruo's hero. Tom. The fairy can kill himself, but he can't kill Tom. It can be said that in Xiaoruo's view, Tom is his last card. Only. Thinking of Tom, Xiaoruo touched her head, feeling a little embarrassed. Tom was thrown in the world of Conan by himself. It's not that Xiaoruo forgot, it's just that he didn't use Tom's place recently, so he didn't bother to take it back. Anyway, Jerry was there to accompany him, and he had food, drink, and someone to accompany him. Xiaoruo is not in a hurry, Tom has to prepare food for it when he comes back. In fact, it's nothing, but Xiaoruo felt that she only thought of Tom when she was busy, and wanted to bring Tom back, as if she really regarded Tom as a tool cat. Although it is true. Thinking of this, Xiaoruo immediately brought Tom back home, who she almost forgot in the world of Conan. Along the way, Xiaoruo hugged Tom tightly and looked at it with gentle eyes. It was as if he wanted to make up for his guilt of treating Tom as a tool cat. With that kind of gentle gaze, Tom felt that his hair was about to stand on end. Meow. Tom has been playing with Jerry all this time, and he doesn't feel bored at all. The daily life of eating and waiting for death is not comfortable. Now he is suddenly caught by his master, and he doesn't understand what the master wants him to do. But Tom is also very smart. He quickly guessed that the owner suddenly changed his attitude and came to him because of 2 things. 1. Let yourself explore the way when you encounter danger. 2. Let yourself act cute and flirt with girls. Little boy, the food has been good recently. Look, you've gained weight, but you've become even cuter. You are indeed my favorite cat. Xiaoruo pinched Tom's cat's face lightly with her hands, her eyes widening. Softened, do you know that when you are not around, I miss you every night? Little boy, cat. Hearing these words, Tom's eyelids twitched. It understands too well. When the master was working as a chef in the soup house, didn't he just do these things? I am so enthusiastic about myself, I guess I am going to some dangerous place again, depending on the attitude of the master, this time the place I am going to may be more dangerous than before. Tom is very conscious of a tool cat, after all, he even came here like this before. Syaruo was still stroking Tom's fur at this time, and the movements of his hands were very gentle. He had never touched a girl's hair so gently before. Good Tom, I haven't seen you for so long, you must be bored. Don't worry, I will never leave you next time, absolutely not, I promise, Syaruo said in a very serious tone. His firm tone and gaze, as well as the accompanying emotional fluctuations, together with Syaruo's increased charisma talent, made Tom feel in a trance for a moment. There is even a kind, the owner really cares about himself, he has always cared about himself, and does not have the illusion of treating himself as a tool cat. However, the next moment, Tom felt the surrounding space began to fluctuate. This feeling was also very familiar to him. It was the feeling that the master usually felt when he went to another world. Meow. Tom couldn't help rolling his eyes. Sure enough, he was going to a dangerous place again, and he still used me as a tool cat. Tom actually accepted this fact a long time ago. Syaruo glanced at Tom's expression and smiled. He almost knew what Tom was thinking, but watching Tom's reaction was still very interesting. Let's go, Tom, this time, you will have a lot of benefits. Meow. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou. Chapter 347. In just a moment, Syaruo brought Tom to a new world. What I saw was a bare stone forest, and the place where Syaruo just came this time seemed to be a wilderness with no human habitation. Feeling a cool wind in the face, Syaruo noticed that the air in this world is also extraordinarily fresh, without the slightest trace of pollution. Just taking a breath of air, Syaruo feels refreshed, and her mind is cleared. Sober up a little bit. Is it because there is aura in this world? Syaruo guessed. Only. Syaruo frowned and looked around. For some reason, he always felt that this world was a bit weird. No other reason than pure intuition. Strange, why does this world feel to me, a bit strange, but there is still a familiar feeling, as if I have encountered it before. Where does this familiar feeling come from? Syaruo thought for a long time, but she didn't realize where this discordant feeling came from. At this time, the system also announced the mission of this world. Ding! The task is released, to seize the heavenly book. Seize the heavenly book. When Yuan Gong, the deacon of the secretary pavilion of Tiangong, took the Jade Emperor to Yaokai for a party, he opened the door of the stone niche, privately took the heavenly book and went down to earth, and engraved the text of the heavenly book on the stone wall of Baiun Cave in Yunmen Mountain. A heavenly book passed down to the lower realm. Seizing the book of heaven is just what I want, Syaruo smiled when she saw the content of the mission. This mission was just in line with his needs. In the original work, Yuan Gong guarded the heavenly book for 3,000 years, and finally peeked at the heavenly book out of curiosity, and found that the heavenly book was originally a book left by the Dao of heaven for people to practice. Next, take the book of heaven to the lower realm, and engrave it in the Baiun Cave of Yunmen Mountain. The protagonist of the animation, Dan Sheng, became Yuan Gong's apprentice and received the inheritance of the heavenly book. So if you want to get the heavenly book, you can go to Yunmen Mountain. However, Syaruo remembers that the words on the heavenly book on the stone wall are not human words. If you want to understand the heavenly book, you need to get Yuan Gong's translation. For Syaruo, there is no rush to go to Yunmen Mountain, it is better to see what time period is now, which is also convenient for Syaruo to make follow-up layout. By the way, Syaruo still remembers that there are 3 elixir in Duke Yuan's alchemy furnace in Yunmen Mountain. After eating the vixen, it can transform into a human on the spot. This elixir is definitely a good thing. Elixir, shape change. When thinking of the elixir, Syaruo glanced at Tom subconsciously. Since the elixir in the animation has the effect of transforming, if Tom eats it, can it also transform? Can Tom finally become a cat girl? But Syaruo shook his head the next moment. Tom is a color-skinned tomcat, he can't turn into a catwoman, at most he can turn into a cat lady. Well, it's not unacceptable for the cat's little wife, as long as he doesn't become an uncle. Tom paid attention to the master's expression, with question marks on his face. After that, Syaruo took Tom and left the stone forest, and was going to ask someone about the location of Yunmen Mountain. By the way, she also wanted to see what time period she was traveling through now. Syaruo walked with Tom in her arms for about half an hour. After walking out of the stone forest, she finally saw a town and saw many people going to the town. However, after seeing those people, the inexplicable and weird feeling that Syaruo felt before reappeared, and it became more and more intense. Obviously these people who passed by were normal, but Syaruo felt a little weird. This world is a bit strange. What went wrong? Syaruo frowned, and touched Tom in her arms. Tom's reaction was normal, as if he didn't notice anything wrong. Before entering the town, Syaruo walked up to an old woman who was closest to her. The old woman was stooped and only reached Syaruo's chest. "Grandma, may I ask how to get to Yunmen Mountain?" Syaruo asked the old lady politely. Hearing someone calling her, the old lady turned her head, but after seeing Syaruo, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes, as if she had never seen such a handsome boy with such white skin. She looked like he came from a rich family. "Ask Yunmen Mountain. If you go west, you can see it if you keep walking. Yunmen Mountain is very high and you can recognize it at a glance." The old woman pointed in one direction. "Thank you, old lady," Syaruo thanked. When Syaruo wanted to ask something, suddenly, two sedan chairs carried by officials attracted Syaruo's attention. Two officials were carrying a blue sedan chair, striding forward with exaggerated steps, which looked very funny. And through the window of the sedan chair, Syaruo could see an official with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks sitting in the middle of the sedan chair. Not only that, the official also wore makeup, with a circle of white powder in the middle of his dark complexion, just like a clown in a Beijing opera. "Go, go!" the official in the sedan chair shouted to his two subordinates. Yes. When the two officials heard the official's words, they immediately quickened their pace, and their movements became more and more funny. Looking at the county magistrate, Syaruo suddenly realized that he finally knew why he felt weird when he came to this world. Because this world is an exaggerated world, just like the cat and mouse world. How could it be possible for a normal ancient official to be able to paint Peking opera makeup, and how could the official errand carrying the sedan chair be so funny? Syaruo, who travels frequently, naturally knows that animation is different from reality, and there is an element of artistic processing in it. Every animation world has its own logical view of the world. For example, in the world view of funny animations, there are characters like Tom who are against the sky. In the world of Conan, although it looks normal, no one else can find it so blatant. Conan. In the real world, these are unreasonable, but in the animation world, it seems very normal. Maybe because the audience is children, so Tianshikitten is such an animation with exaggerated settings. Syaruo took a look around again this time, and sure enough, the civilians walking around looked quite normal, but they were actually the same as the template characters that appeared in the animation. Syaruo didn't notice it because she had never been to the real ancient times before, but now, it seems that it is because of the exaggerated style of painting. The ordinary people around her look ugly, and she and their style are completely different. Compared with the normal animation world, Syaruo thinks this exaggerated animation world is more interesting. Syaruo is a little curious, if this is the case, what will the subsequent fighting skills be like, and what power will the spells have? Young man, you are from other places, right? He is the magistrate of our county, the old woman kindly explained to Sioruo when she saw Sioruo was staring at the sedan chair in thought. Oh, I see. I want to ask, old lady, do you know what happened recently? I seem to have heard that there is a plague of locusts nearby, Sioruo tentatively said to the old lady. The locust plague has been resolved, said the old lady with a smile on her face, as if recalling something. At that time, there was indeed a big locust plague in our county, and some bad people pretended to be fairy girls and cheated us a lot of money, but fortunately, a child with a moon on his forehead came here at noon today. Many red-headed birds ate up the locusts that harmed the crops. Hearing this, Sioruo knew that she came a bit late. The heavenly book had already been obtained by Dan Sheng, and Xianggu should be a vixen. It seemed that the elixir had also been stolen. Sioruo touched Tom. It seemed that Tom was hopeless, but Sioruo also noticed a detail. Wait a minute, old lady, you said that the child who knows magic came at noon today? Did you see where he went? Sioruo quickly asked. In the animation, after Dan Sheng cast a spell, he was targeted by the vixen, and that night, the vixen stole the heavenly book. That child is heading towards Yunmen Mountain, the old woman told him, feeling that Sioruo didn't look like a bad person. Thank you, old woman. After finishing speaking, Sioruo rushed towards Yunmen Mountain. If you want to get the heavenly book, you must find the protagonist Dan Sheng. With this thought in mind, Sioruo followed the path pointed out by the old lady to find Dan's hung. However, Sioruo didn't have any radar. Even if she was locked in Yunmen Mountain, it would be difficult to find someone within such a large area of Yunmen Mountain. However, Sioruo was lucky. In the middle of the night, he finally found Dan's hung on Yunmen Mountain. At this time, Danzhen's thin body walked through the trees, and his movements were flexible. After seeing Dan Sheng, Sioruo didn't go forward directly, but followed Dan Sheng secretly. Meow. Tom looked at the master curiously, not knowing what the master was going to do this time. It looked like he was going to do something bad. Hush. Sioruo made a shush gesture to tell Tom to keep silent. He found that Dan Sheng looked angry now, as if the Book of Heaven had been stolen by the vixen. Sioruo knew that Dan Sheng would go to find the vixen, so he didn't disturb him. He followed Dan Sheng quietly. If Sioruo guessed correctly, according to the plot, there will be a battle next. At that time, you can watch it. What does magic in this world look like? Just like that, Dan Sheng angrily looked for the vixen in front, while Sioruo secretly followed behind him. Although Dan Sheng is the main character, he looks very young, only about 10 years old, with a round head, a pair of black round eyes, eyebrows that are not too thick are drawn as 3 short lines, and there is one on his forehead that is similar to Yun. The same crescent moon imprint. But it seems that because of the loss of the heavenly book, Dan Sheng's face was full of anger, and he didn't notice that he was being followed by Sioruo at all. Not long after, Dan Sheng found an abandoned tall building on the mountain, a bit like an old castle. In that abandoned building, there seemed to be faintly flickering lights. The figure of the vixen in the heavenly book, those vixens are still peeking at the heavenly book. Seeing this, Dan Sheng could no longer bear his anger and knocked on the door desperately. Bang bang bang. Hey! Open the door quickly. Open the door quickly and return the heavenly book to me. Dan Sheng shouted from outside the door. At this time, the vixen in the building also heard Dan Sheng's voice, and after hearing the voice, they quickly came to the roof. 2 vixens, one looks like an old lady in half a century, with a horrible head wrapped around a somewhat crooked body, with a protruding mouth, a pair of big dark circles embedded in the face, and a pair of scheming small eyes in the eye sockets. The other is an extremely seductive and beautiful woman with an elegant bun, phoenix eyes, a cherry mouth, and a melon-seeded face. There is a big blush on each face, with the makeup of Hua Dan, exuding a unique charm from top to bottom. The two foxes looked down at Dan Sheng with mockery in their eyes. "Give me back the book!" Dan Sheng shouted angrily when he saw the vixen come out. "Hey, I don't want to pay it back, what should I do?" the coquettish vixen said to Dan Sheng, giving off a numb feeling. "Yes, I won't pay it back, what can you do?" the old lady vixen also shouted mockingly. Dan Sheng was still a child with a pure nature. He trembled with anger when he was ridiculed by these two vixens. "Bah, that's unreasonable. You two are stealing and cheating. How shameless!" Xiaoruo hid in a bush not far away, watching the scene speechlessly. Sure enough, it was an animated movie for children. Xiaoruo looked at this plot, and felt like she was watching a gourd baby. However, the next step should be to cast a spell. On the field, Dan Sheng was still pointing at the vixen to ask them to return the book. Probably because of his kind nature, Dan Sheng didn't intend to use the spell first. The old lady vixen rolled her eyes, rolled up her sleeves, put her fingers together, drew a strange talisman, and made a magic gesture. "You wild boy, watch me teach you a lesson." 5 thunders strike the top. There was a click. As if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking, there was a thunderbolt out of thin air, and a thunderbolt exploded. The loud sound made Xiaoruo feel a slight tinnitus, and Tom's hair in his arms exploded in fright. A huge lightning bolt tens of meters long shot out from the old fox's palm. Like a real thunderbolt, there was no time for people to react. The huge lightning directly struck Dan Sheng, who was standing there, and the young Dan Sheng was directly sent flying, life or death unknown. Xiaoruo looked at the scene in shock, and felt it at a close distance. In terms of power and momentum, this 5 thunder strike spell was no weaker than Misako Mikoto's billion volts. Ha 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 ha. The two vixens laughed wantonly on the roof. This was not over yet. The old fox pulled 3 grasses from the ground, and then blew lightly. The 3 grasses turned into 3 grass-headed soldiers, and the 3 grass-headed soldiers flew down and lifted Donzhen's body. Immediately afterwards, the old fox blew lightly again, and Dan Sheng was blown into the sky together with the grass-headed soldiers. Looking at Dan Sheng, who disappeared into the sky, Xiaoruo's mouth twitched. As expected of a mythical animation, a fairy tale for children, the spells are as good as they are written for fun. A random small spell is so powerful, and what is even more exaggerated is that Dan Sheng was able to survive in the end after being hit by such a lightning bolt. Xiaoruo didn't even know if he could withstand the 5 thunderbolts with his current level of reality power, let alone the other party's other mysterious spells. At the beginning, Xiaoruo was planning to grab the heavenly book, but thinking about it now, it's better to outsmart her. Thinking of this, Xiaoruo rolled her eyes slightly, then gestured to Tom, and made eye contact with each other. What Xiaoruo meant was, "Tom, can you steal the book from heaven, and then we can read it together?" Seeing through the meaning of the master, Tom shook his head frantically. It also saw the spell just now. For this strange magic, Tom was a little afraid even if he was immortal. He was afraid that the other party would turn him into a stone puppet or something. So Tom gestured to his master. Xiaoruo and Tom have been together for a long time, so Xiaoruo can understand Tom's meaning. After understanding, he couldn't help but knock Tom's head. "What, you say you want me to seduce a vixen? You stupid cat? Am I that kind of person?" Although she said this in her mouth, Xiaoruo turned her head slightly after being reminded by Tom, and looked at the young female vixen who was still on the roof smiling coquettishly because of her victory. She is indeed a very beautiful woman, and Xiaoruo feels that her face is a bit like a big-name female star in China. Even with peaking opera makeup, you can still see its unique charm. That is the unique painting style of Huaguo animation. It is completely different from the cute and beautiful girl in Japanese manga. It is the first time Xiaoruo has seen her soft and charming feeling, especially the slender waist that the other party is grasping. This is too thin. Syaruo feels that the vixen's waist is not as thick as her own thighs. If it's for the heavenly book, it's indeed a good idea, Syaruo murmured. Tom rolled his eyes. It didn't feel strange, after all, the owner used to do this business. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 348. Outsmart. What is outsmart? Seduction is actually a way to outsmart, although the sacrifice is a bit big. However, for Syaruo, the heavenly book is too precious. In order to complete the mission to obtain the heavenly book, no matter how great the sacrifice is, it is worth it to feed the fox. And according to the legends, vixens themselves like handsome guys, so seduction is indeed a good idea. All it takes is a good plan, a script. Syaruo rubbed his chin. At this time, countless stories about fox monsters and scholars kept popping up in his mind. Syaruo had also watched a lot of TV dramas about the love between monsters and humans, and his inspiration was endless. Scholar, fox demon, do you want me to dress up as a scholar? I heard from my father that even fox demons like this. Xiaogenzi didn't know what Syaruo was thinking, but if he knew, he would definitely give his son a thumbs up. At this time, Syaruo was still planning the script in her mind. It's best to create a perfect encounter first. Then, no, if you encounter an accident, you can change it. At last. In the process of making the plan, Syaruo's eyes became brighter and brighter. Tom listened to his master's plan, his eyelids twitched. Although it is just a cat, it can see clearly. Seeing the excitement of its owner, it always feels that the owner is enjoying it. What a scumbag. Tom was the first to travel with his master and witnessed his master going farther and farther on the road of becoming scum, so he is also the person who knows Syaruo best. In his view, lying to the book may be an excuse, and the master is actually I want to pick up a beautiful fox demon. Tom sighed. Although he had many kittens, he still despised his master's behavior. Poor fox. Fast forward to the time when the fox demon was deceived by a scumbag man to deceive his feelings, and went into the magic way to kill heartless people all over the world. Finally finished. Syaruo breathed a sigh of relief. After the plan was formed, he just returned to modern times to buy a set of white-clothed Hanfu, which looks like a scholar. After changing into Hanfu, he feels more substituting in ancient times. There was even a unicorn jade pendant on Syaruo's waist. If you want to do it, do your best. The first step is to take care of your image first. Syaruo took a selfie with his mobile phone. At this time, he was dressed in white, his eyebrows were flying into his temples, his eyes were like bright stars, warm and moist like jade. He was such a handsome young man. Unexpectedly, the clothes Syaruo chose matched her very well. The painting style of ordinary people in this world is really ugly. In this world, my own painting style is considered to be of unfathomable beauty. With the blessing of charm, Syaruo can't find any flaws in her body. I feel that there is no need for any routines at all, as long as I go out by myself, no matter whether it is a lady or a weird monster, I have to surrender under my trouser legs. The preparation is complete, Syaruo smiled slightly. At this time, the sky outside the window was filled with dark clouds, and it seemed that it was going to rain. In the county seat, the two vixens have just learned spells, and they are proud of their spring breeze. The two of them, who were shouted and beaten by everyone, now appear in the county town openly. Mother-in-law, we cheated so much money just now, it's not good to show up in the county town, it's easy to be caught, the young vixen in pink said to the old fox next to her. It seemed that she was not very courageous. Stupid girl, we are all masters of spells now, who can catch us, and what if we are caught? The old vixen said indifferently, but there was a hint of complacency in his tone. Okay, just listen to my mother-in-law, the pink-clothed fox could only nod. But the beautiful fox in pink is so beautiful that the men in the surrounding counties almost all set their eyes on her, but facing so many greedy eyes, the fox in pink felt a feeling of disgust in his heart. She doesn't like humans. Especially men. The man's greedy gaze has never been less since she took shape. To her, all men looked the same, dirty and disgusting. Just as the vixen in pink was walking slowly on the road, a fat man with big ears walked towards her and wanted to bump into her maliciously, but the vixen easily dodged with disgust. Disgusting man. The vixen in pink put her fingers together and made a magic gesture. Go. Soon, a thick needle shot out from the vixen's hand and pierced the fat man's ass. Ah! After the fat man was stabbed by the needle, he collapsed a meter high, hugged his buttocks and ran away screaming. Ha ha! Seeing the other party's embarrassed look, the pink-clothed vixen laughed coquettishly, as if it was fun to play tricks on people like this. Just as she was focusing on the person who had just been injured, suddenly, a small blue animal bumped into the pink fox. What? After the vixen screamed in surprise, he took a closer look, only to find that it was a blue cat that bumped into him. It turned out to be a cat. Seeing that it was just a cat, the vixen in pink breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't want to pay attention to the cat, but at this moment, a handsome boy in white suddenly ran over. That young man was extremely handsome, his face was like a sculpture with distinct features, his angular face was unusually handsome, it felt incompatible with the ordinary people around him. Just looking at his face, the pink-clothed fox felt a little blush. How can there be such a good-looking person in this world, the vixen thought shyly after peeking at Sioruo's face. To say that he is 1 in a million is a bit too much, and the immortal brother is nothing more than that. I'm sorry, girl, I'm sorry. Sioruo, who was wearing a hanfu, walked up to the vixen in pink with an apologetic face. My cat bumped into you just now, I'm really sorry. Sioruo lowered her body and waved at Tom. Tom rolled his eyes and jumped on Sioruo's body. Nothing. The vixen responded in a low voice, suddenly showing a little shyness, putting her small white hands in front of her, fingers twisted together. It's good that the girl is fine. Sioruo breathed a sigh of relief seeing that the girl in front of her was fine, as if she was worried that her cat would damage the girl in front of her. My cat is called Tom. He is usually very naughty. He always likes to bump into beautiful people. Maybe it's because the girl is so beautiful that Tom bumped into you. Sioruo smiled when she said this. However, the girl is indeed the most beautiful person I, in this world, have ever seen. Hearing such a handsome son praise her beauty, the fox in pink felt her face was hot and her heart beat faster. This was the first time she felt this feeling. Young master won the prize. The fox in pink bowed slightly, and she suddenly realized that she didn't hate men so much anymore. The young man in front of her was good-looking, had a nice voice, looked gentle, and his eyes were not as obscene as other men, clean and pure. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 349. Sioruo held Tom in her arms, with a suitable smile on her face, giving people a feeling of spring breeze. Even if she didn't do anything, she would unconsciously make people feel good about him. Every move seems to exude attractive charm. It seems that as long as you see him, your mood will improve. This is the effect of the protection of charm. Sioruo's previous charm protection has fully demonstrated her ability at this time, and the charm protection is not necessarily worse than the Phoenix protection. Charm protection can not only make people unconsciously have a good impression, but also magnify one's own advantages in front of the opposite sex. It is an ability similar to a heartthrob. Not only the pink-clothed fox, but also the old fox next to the pink-clothed fox was stunned. It seemed that she had never seen such a good-looking man in her life. Sioruo also noticed their reaction, and smiled lightly. She didn't expect that she would use charm skills in front of the vixen. And it seems to be very successful, killing both young and old. The old fox rolled his eyes cleverly, and wanted to talk to Sioruo, but the pink-clothed fox next to him, Xiaoman, twisted his waist slightly, pushed the old fox aside with his butt, and stood in front of Sioruo himself. "You're so old, you still want to catch men?" The fox in pink gave the old fox a contemptuous look, and when he turned to look at Sioruo again, a charming smile appeared on his face. Snort. After the old fox was pushed away, he stood aside with some dissatisfaction, thinking, what a coquettish fox, he only took shape for a few days, and he can't move his legs when he sees a man, and he doesn't even know how to respect the old and love the young. "Do you like cats, sir?" "It's rare. People who like to keep cats." The fox in pink looked at the cat in Sioruo's hand and asked. "People like beautiful things, not only humans, but also foxes." The pink fox felt that he was a little different today, so he wanted to say a few more words to the young man in front of him, and listen to his voice more. "Yeah, I usually like furry animals, foxes, kittens, I like them all," Sioruo said softly after touching Tom. The way he treats the kitten in his arms gently at this time is very convincing. Young master also likes foxes, the vixen in pink couldn't help asking when he heard this, with a hint of anticipation in his tone. "Yes, I think the fox is a very cute animal, docile and gentle." Sioruo naturally knew what to say in order to gain more favor. "He likes foxes." Hearing Sioruo's words, the pink-clothed fox's face turned red, and his eyes kept staring at Sioruo's face, his winking eyes seemed to water. Sioruo looked at the face of the fox in pink, and said, "Young girl's eyes are very similar to the fox I used to raise. Her spiritual eyes are delicate and charming, and she smiles like a ribbon." "Oh, the young master also raised a fox?" the pink-clothed fox asked with a reddish face. "Well, when I was a child, I rescued a little pink fox that was injured and ate and lived with it. Unfortunately, after its wounds were healed, I released it back to the forest. I don't know how it is doing now. For this reason, I was still sad for several years," Sioruo said here, a trace of sadness flashed in her eyes. Just this trace of sadness was discovered by the pink-clothed fox who had been watching Sioruo all the time. Being sad for a fox made her heart melt. Young master is really kind. Good people are rewarded. Maybe the fox saved by young master will come to repay his kindness in the future. When Sioruo heard what she said, the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. "Haha, what the girl said reminds me of the ghost I have seen. The fox turned into a human, and saved her scholar with his body, but unfortunately, these are just stories." The fox in pink winked at Sioruo with winking eyes. "Really, there is another one like this. If there is a chance, I should take a look." Tom flicked his tail in his master's arms, listening to the conversation between the two. He was speechless. Sure enough, I couldn't believe a single word that the scumbag said. This fox looked weird, but he still had little experience and wasn't very smart. The owner is also amazing, not satisfied with human beings at all. This time he saved the fox. If he encounters the rabbit monster next time, then he will save the little rabbit, and if he encounters a dinosaur, he will save the dinosaur egg. It's a good thing that I'm a male cat, otherwise I don't know when the owner will become wild and kill me. Tom was in Sioruo's arms, and Sioruo's big hands touched all parts of his body, and his thoughts began to flutter. After Sioruo talked to the vixen for a few words, she knew that it should be over. When meeting for the first time, just click on it. "Girl, I still have something to do, so let's go first." Sioruo said goodbye neatly, not like other men who were addicted to the beauty of the pink fox. "Young master, if you have something to do, go and do it first," the pink-clothed fox said, but there was a trace of reluctance in his eyes. "See you again by fate. By the way, I forgot one thing." Sioruo seemed to think of something, looked at the pink fox and said seriously. "My surname is Xia and my name is Ruo, Xia of Xia, Ruo of Ruo Shui." After chatting for so long, I still don't know the girl's name. In the original animation, the names of the three vixens have not been given. It may be that they have just transformed and do not have human names. After thinking for a while, the pink fox replied, "Young Master Xia, just call me Little Fox." Little Raccoon, the name suits the girl very well, but Little Raccoon Girl, I should go too. See you next time if you are destined. After that, Xiaoruo walked straight to the other side of the street. And the little raccoon kept looking at Xiaoruo's back, silently watching Xiaoruo leave. Don't look at it, the eyeballs are about to come out again, it's still a young fox, it's just that you don't have enough concentration to resist the temptation, the old fox said from the side. If you like it, can't you use spells to take him down? He's just an ordinary human being, and he can't resist. If you don't make a move, then I'm going to make a move. Such a good-looking young man, don't give it a try. Pity. As he said that, it seemed that he had thought of something good, the old fox licked the corner of his mouth, looking excited. Humph, you are not allowed to take action against Mr. Xia, the fox in pink angrily glanced at the old fox. She also knows the spells in the heavenly book, so she is not very afraid of the old fox. Got it, that Mr. Xia is your prey. The old fox seemed a little bored when he heard the pink fox say this. Now that they have obtained the heavenly book, their strength has greatly increased. It is the time when they are most inflated, and they are not afraid of anyone. It's not good for them, so I'm not wary of Xiaoruo who suddenly appeared. At this time, the fox in pink looked at the direction Xiaoruo left again, and she really had a feeling for Mr. Xia just now. Seeing the other person's face, she felt her heart beat faster. A vixen dares to love and hate, but she won't be as reserved as an ordinary girl, waiting for the other party to pursue her. She wants to get Xiaoruo, but she doesn't want to use coercion. Master Xia doesn't seem to have much reaction to my appearance. What should I do? Apart from being good-looking, I don't know anything about embroidery. The fox in pink said to herself. At this time, she suddenly fell into a secret love. Entangled mentality. If the identity of the vixen is exposed, even if Mr. Xia likes foxes, he will be afraid. If he is frightened, it will be bad. Could it be that you really need to use spells? That's right. The fox in pink seemed to have thought of something, turned his eyes slightly, and looked at the sky. I saw her put her fingers together and pinched a spell in her hand. In an instant, mysterious auras emanated from her body. The wind is coming. Suddenly, the originally calm weather suddenly became violently windy. However, this is not over yet. The pink-clothed fox once again squeezed a complicated spell in the hands of the pink-clothed fox, and at this moment, the pink-clothed fox suddenly became holy and noble. Rain is coming. This time, in the originally empty sky, dark clouds appeared out of thin air, covering the entire sky. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 350. Xiaoruo was walking on the road with Tom in her arms, and suddenly found that a large cloud of dark clouds appeared inexplicably in the sky, covering the entire sky. Click. There was no time for people to react. Bean-sized raindrops fell from the sky, and they became bigger and bigger. Unprepared, Xiaoruo was drenched by the heavy rain, and her white clothes were soaked through. But even so, Xiaoruo was still paying attention to Tom in her arms, and put it in her clothes to prevent Tom from being caught. Get wet. Xiaoruo found that the rain was a little unnatural. So at this time, he pretended to be like an ordinary person who was caught in the rain, and found a shop to hide from the rain. He looked at the heavy rain in front of him with a worried face, as if he was thinking about when the heavy rain would stop. The pouring rain was crackling on the eaves. It was difficult to go out without an umbrella in such heavy rain. Sure enough, just as Sioruo thought, it didn't take long for Sioruo to find that a familiar figure of Meoman appeared not far from her holding a paper umbrella. In fact, the fox in pink has been following Sioruo after the heavy rain. Seeing that Sioruo's clothes were drenched and sticking to her body, Sioruo's figure was exposed. Tongue licked his red lips. Sure enough, spells are easier to use. I didn't expect that Mr. Xia has such a good figure. When Sioruo was troubled by the heavy rain, she appeared at the right time, holding a pink oil paper umbrella in her hand, like a fairy. Hey, Mr. Xia, why are you here? The fox in pink asked in surprise after seeing Sioruo. Ah, it's the raccoon girl. Sioruo was drenched all over at this time, looking a little embarrassed, but after seeing the little raccoon, she still squeezed out a smile in front of her. I didn't expect it to rain heavily today, and I forgot to bring my umbrella when I went out today. Haha, the little raccoon put his little hand next to his mouth, covered his mouth and looked at Sioruo with a smirk. Young Master Xia seems really unlucky. No, it should be good luck. Sioruo listened to what the vixen said, but didn't answer. Master Xia, your clothes are already wet like this. The heavy rain doesn't seem to stop for a while, and standing still is not an option. Why don't you come with me to my place to rest and dry your clothes? Ming said. The vixen, who is a raccoon, suggested to Sioruo kindly. This, isn't that good? Sioruo's eyes seemed to be a little hesitant, as if she didn't know whether she should refuse, pretending to be really hesitant. This kind of invitation to a girl's house really needs to be reserved. Naturally, the little raccoon would not give up, and continued, "What's wrong? It's not good to get wet and catch a cold in such heavy rain. Why don't you just go home with me? Oh, no, just go back with me to rest. Wait, let's go when the rain stops." After Sioruo pretended to think seriously for a few seconds, she nodded helplessly. Then trouble the raccoon girl. No trouble. After that, Sioruo took the umbrella from the vixen's hand, and walked with her under the umbrella in the heavy rain, but because the rain was too heavy, even with the umbrella, it was inevitable that rainwater would spill in. At this time, Sioruo leaned the umbrella a little closer to the raccoon girl in a very gentlemanly manner, letting herself get drenched in the rain, and all of this was also seen by the raccoon dog. The little raccoon felt sweet in her heart, but she didn't say anything. She just moved closer to Sioruo, and the two of them were almost stuck together. Just like that, the two of them walked in the rain silently. Although it was silent, there was something special about it. The place where the vixens live now is the temple where they stayed when they first took shape. The abbot ran away because he accidentally injured the young monk, so this temple has now become the lair of the vixens. Sioruo followed Xiaoli to the boudoir where she lived. The vixen's boudoir was surprisingly girlish, and the room was full of pink decorations. This place should have been a meditation room, but it was turned into a girl's boudoir by the little raccoon, which seemed a little cute. That, raccoon girl. Sioruo felt that she should say something at this time, but found that the vixen in pink came up and took off her clothes. The corner of Sioruo's mouth twitched. Wait a minute, isn't this progress a little too fast? The fox in pink also noticed Sioruo's strange eyes, smiled charmingly, and rolled her eyes at Sioruo. Humph, look how scared Mr. Xia is. I can still eat you. I just saw that your clothes are all wet, and I want to send you to the stove to dry, and prepare a clean suit for you by the way. So that's how it is. Hearing what Xiaoli said, Sioruo breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that the vixen was really so direct, and he was taken aback. Actually, you don't need to bother the fox, I'll just change it myself, please avoid it. Sioruo gently pushed the pink fox away, wanting to hold back. However, when Sioruo pushed the little raccoon away, the little raccoon's body stiffened obviously, and the charming smile on his face also stiffened for a moment, but it soon returned to normal. Pushed by Sioruo, the little raccoon took a step back, pinched a spell with his hand where Syaruo couldn't see. Immediately afterwards, the little raccoon said charmingly, "Master Xia, look at me, am I pretty?" The next moment, Syaruo's eyes noticed the little raccoon's winking eyes. When the two eyes met, Syaruo suddenly felt that her brain went blank, and there was nothing in her eyes, only the beautiful fox in front of her was left. It seemed that his spiritual consciousness was completely drawn by the vixen in front of him. "It's so beautiful," Syaruo murmured with blank eyes. "Take the bait," the little raccoon smiled charmingly. Wrong. After all, Syaruo has rich experience. She sensed something was wrong, realized that she might have been enchanted, and wanted to use the power of reality to solve it. But the vixen was obviously faster. Before Syaruo regained consciousness, she spit out a cloud of purple mist, which just sprayed on Syaruo's face. Snapped. Like a wooden man, Syaruo fell straight on the ground, with the last obsessed expression on her face, which looked a little funny. Meow. Feeling the shock, Tom, who had been hiding in the clothes in Syaruo's arms, also jumped out, and jumped onto the windowsill beside him with a small jump. It just fell asleep because the owner's arms were too warm, but it didn't expect to see such a scene when it woke up. "Master, is the car overturned?" Seeing the way its owner fell to the ground, Tom couldn't help covering his cat's face, but he was curious about what would happen next. It seemed that the other party didn't seem to want to harm the master, so Tom didn't help, but looked a little optimistic about the show. "Young Master Xia is so good looking, how can there be such a good looking person?" At this time, the little raccoon looked at Syaruo with gentle eyes, and stroked Syaruo's cheek with her white and clean hands. Her movements were as gentle as if she were treating porcelain. "Sure enough, my mother-in-law is right. We foxes still need to use spells to treat men, but don't worry, Mr. Xia. I will treat you well in the future and won't make you suffer. As long as you marry me, I can conjure gold, silver, and treasures for you. Even if you want to be the emperor, there is nothing wrong with it." This is the case with the fox demon. Once she is tempted, she dares to do anything. In addition, she is the villain in the original work, so she is naturally unscrupulous in doing things. Just now, Syaruo's action of pushing her made her feel uneasy, thinking that her action had offended Mr. Xia, so she no longer pretended to be anything, and directly exposed her true nature. If Syaruo, who was lying on the ground, knew her thoughts, she would definitely be speechless. In fact, Syaruo had already prepared, ready to take her time, such poems and songs, food guides, routine love words. These were all ready, but before it was used, it was knocked down by the other party with a drug. This time, it was Syaruo who was younger. This fox demon is different from the beautiful girls in Japanese manga I met before. He is straightforward and bold, because he knows less about fox demons. After that, Xiaoli moved Syaruo to her pink bed, and took off the brocade curtains on both sides. Click. Outside the house, a flash of lightning flashed by, and the heavy rain showed no signs of stopping. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhiwai. Chapter 351. Click. Syaruo was awakened by a sound of thunder. When he woke up, he found that there was a sleeping woman lying beside him. Her sleeping face was unexpectedly exquisite, and her delicate face revealed a hint of charm, and she looked defenseless. In this scene, it's easy to think of anything. On the originally clean floor, the clothes of the two were scattered. The rain outside the window was still dripping, but it was not as heavy as before. The even breathing of the woman beside her reminded Syaruo that all this was so real. Syaruo looked at the sky outside the window. It was already the second day. Slowly, the memories before the fainting also emerged. "It's over, I was actually sucked by the vixen." Recalling everything, Syaruo suddenly had such an idea in her mind. The current situation is as if Syaruo went to the bar to pick up girls, but in the end she was drunk by a veteran, brought to the hotel, and directly squeezed dry. I came to lie to Tianchu, but in the end I was eaten. This kind of development was unexpected by Xiaoruo. Big loss. By the way, are you responsible? No, I'm the victim, and I'm the one who is at fault. No matter how you look at it, it's the vixen's fault, and it's hard to take responsibility if you don't have feelings. Calm down and think about what to do now. It was the first time for Xiaoruo to experience such a thing as being reversed, so he patted his face and quickly calmed down. In an instant, all distracting thoughts in his mind disappeared. After analyzing the current situation, an option appeared in Xiaoruo's mind. Why don't you pick up your pants and run away, as if nothing happened? Xiaoruo glanced at the vixen sleeping soundly beside her. Xiaoruo's eyes were a bit complicated. The little raccoon was sleeping very deeply. What a dream, with a faint smile on his face. Xiaoruo sighed, I approached you with a purpose before, and I'm not a good person. If you sucked my yang energy, just pretend it didn't happen. I don't blame you, but you and I are different. See you later by fate. After saying some beautiful words with the characteristics of a scumbag, Xiaoruo didn't hesitate at all, and nimbly put on her clothes at the speed of light, grabbed Tom who was still sleeping on the table beside her, and was about to run away. However, when she reached the door, Xiaoruo stopped her footsteps and looked back at the vixen who was still lying on the bed. At this time, the vixen was still sleeping soundly. It seemed that the other party did not pretend to be asleep, but really fell asleep because he was too tired. Even in his sleep, his face was still so soft. The vixen is such a heartwarming creature. Xiaoruo stared at the vixen's face, swallowed, then turned around and walked back. Of course, Xiaoruo didn't do anything strange to the woman on the bed, but just groped for the scattered clothes on the ground. Naturally, he didn't forget what his purpose for coming here was. The next moment, Xiaoruo took out a clean booklet from Xiaoli's clothes. It was a folded booklet. Once opened, it can be stretched very long. Xiaoruo glanced over it and found that there were hundreds of very advanced spell content recorded in the booklet. Book from Heaven. The corners of Xiaoruo's mouth twitched. The Book of Heaven was so easy to get, and it was in this way of exchanging his own body. Thinking back to the series of scripts he had made up in his mind, Xiaoruo felt a little stupid. If there are fan animations in this world, Xiaoruo will definitely seal this fan animation forever, as a black history that cannot be revealed. But what Xiaoruo didn't know was that the heavenly book was originally placed on the old fox, but after all, the little raccoon had just obtained the heavenly book and hadn't learned a few spells. In order to successfully seduce Xiaoruo, she borrowed the heavenly book. There will be useful spells. In short, although all of this is different from Xiaoruo's imagined plan, the final goal has been achieved, and this is definitely not just due to luck. Xiaoruo didn't take away the book, but took out her mobile phone and started recording the content of the book. Because the booklet can be stretched, less than half a minute is enough to record it. Although it is best to take the original, it is Xiaoli's property after all, even if she stole it. If the little raccoon disappears after waking up and takes away the heavenly book, what kind of blow will it be to this vixen? Thinking of this, Xiaoruo's heart softened, and she asked her to remember this encounter, consider it a coincidence. After recording, Xiaoruo stuffed the book back. In her mind, Xiaoruo also heard the system's prompt. Ding! The task of capturing the heavenly book is complete, and the rewards are being distributed. Withdrawn. After hearing the prompt, Xiaoruo didn't hesitate anymore, hugged Tom and started running without even listening to the content of the reward. She ran very fast, and within a few breaths, she ran hundreds of meters. Meow. Seeing the embarrassment of the master running away, Tom was a little contemptuous, but he could also understand the master's thoughts. After all, when the kittens were in groups, He also ran away after finishing his work. It's not that it is ruthless, but an excellent cat. There will always be an ocean. You can't give up a vast sea for a fish. Sioruo also felt Tom's gaze, and slammed it on the head. When the master was brutally murdered by the vixen, you just watched like this, you ungrateful cat. Meow. Tom was stunned. What happened? It was afraid of disturbing the owner, and had been guarding outside the door before. Forget it, I couldn't count on you at first. Although there were some accidents, I got the Tianshu in the end. It's still pretty good. Sioruo took Tom to find an open space and returned directly to the real world. When the task has been completed, he has no reason to stay in this world. However, before leaving the world of Tianshu, Sioruo glanced at the direction of the temple. Not long after Sioruo left, Xiaoli woke up, but when she opened her eyes, she found that there was no one beside her pillow. Young Master Xia! Young Master Xia! No matter how she called, there was no response. After she put on her clothes, she searched the entire temple, but she couldn't find Sioruo. Her expression gradually became bewildered. She didn't know where Mr. Xia had gone. Haha, what's the matter? That man ran away? Noticing the little raccoon's reaction, the ugly old fox came out of a side room and said with a sinister smile. I just said, don't take men too seriously. In this world, money and power are the most important things. With these, if you can't get anything, men are not good things. Listening to the old fox's words, the little raccoon looked devastated. It was obvious that they had only met for a day, but the shadow of that person seemed to be engraved in her heart. No, the little raccoon shook his head. I was the one who scared Mr. Xia. Next time I see Mr. Xia, I must apologize to him. Silly girl, do you still want to meet next time? The old fox gave her a look of resentment. The young vixen is just so stupid. When he wakes up, he will have forgotten you. No, Mr. Xia is not that kind of person, said the little raccoon stubbornly.